All right. Hi, everybody. This is Vish. And I want to share a story about how we at Power Central started from Pack and Fresh. At Pack and Fresh, we started as a food co-packer back in 2017. And in 2020, we experienced a lot of top line growth. And even through 20% month over month of top line growth, the invisible margin loss and lack of inventory visibility nearly killed us. And we tried deploying an ERP, but we had a catastrophic failure with that ERP. And mainly what we saw was that the implementers of the ERP, the consulting companies, the product companies, we felt like the incentives were not aligned. They were coming and deploying the ERP, and they would give us a quote for $80,000 to $100,000. But in the end, they were charging by the hour and they were invoice us every week. And we just felt like in the end, we didn't get anything out of it. And when we looked at the business model that they had, we just felt like their incentives were not aligned with our growth. So we ended up building Power Central on the shop floor of Pack and Fresh. And we used the tool in 2020 to really steadily increase our margins from highly fluctuating 25% gross margin to very steady 50% gross margin at Pack and Fresh. And through this growth, we basically figured out that, this is a tool that many other food manufacturers, especially in the $10 to $150 million food manufacturing and packaging space, do not have the tools and the platform and the culture for. So we wanted to help set out to build the most profitable food manufacturing businesses in North America. And that's a very core value we have, because we want to make sure that we're not just deploying an ERP. We want to really measure ourselves to how successful and profitable we're making the food manufacturing customers. So it's our pleasure to be joined by two amazing CEOs that I had the absolute pleasure of working with. We have Billal Sidiq, who's the CEO of Flatbreads Queen Inc, based in California, and also Fred Partlow, the CEO of Stutz Packing. And without further ado, I want to hand the baton to Billal. And really, Billal, thanks a lot. You've been in the Fancy Food Show in New York City, and he took the time for us to, get to a quiet place and actually be able to give the talk. So Billal, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Vish. And I just want to start out by saying, it's been a pleasure working with Power Central. But before I get into talking about Power Central and how we've implemented ERP and the new and fun things that we're doing with AI, first I wanted to talk about a little bit kind of what Vish was kind of talking about. We're at food manufacturer, Bolani Flatbread Queen. We produce flatbreads, sauces, breads with fillings, so sandwiches. So we make a chicken tikka, we do a spinach, a potato. And we started in farmers markets, and we grew, a couple $1 million a year in sales. It was a nice small business. And then as we started to go into retail and club, and we started to climb past the $10 million mark, really using Excel and trying to identify cost accounting and margins and inventory control, which is really just counting up batch sheets and trying to calculate with a calculator of how many batches we need for the following week and trying to get materials within 3 days. Life started to become very difficult, and we understood that we needed a system to grow the company, because that's primarily people have, when they get to that stage, they have gone to ERPs. But unfortunately, what they don't tell you is that it's not so easy. You just sign up with an ERP, and in a couple of months, you're just rolling. So we went through the traditional route of looking through the NetSuites and other type of applications of ERP. And really, they were very expensive. They were in the $250,000 range for a company our size. That's a hefty sum to take on. And we found Fishbowl, which was, like Vish said, $85,000 to $100,000. And we thought, oh, this is a good medium range. It's not the lowest, it's not the highest, and we'll be able to do it. So as we started into that, we started to realize what most people figure out, it's not just about the ERP, but it's about the implementation of the ERP and getting people to follow it and changing. It will really change the structure of your business like it is doing mine every day now. And when we worked with Fishbowl, they gave us the training. They said we did not need any live training. We could just do everything remotely. We could meet for weeks. And we did that for about, I would say about six weeks. And after that, we can deploy the system. And if we really needed, we could pay for $3,000 for a guy to come out for 3 days and train people. And that should be the final step if needed. Well, quickly, we did not get anything because it was not making sense. It was not being implemented. It was a variation of processes in the company that just could not implement the ERP that Fishbowl was asking. And two, we started to see gaps in their system overall. So just trying to figure out traceability and other things like that. And they really didn't have tailored answers for us. They were kind of vague and, it could work if you do this and that, but no real solutions. Especially every company is its own, mountain. It has its own ridges, its own peaks, its own valleys. So you really, using a one shoe to fit that is really difficult. And you need someone to give you the knowledge of how we can tackle the challenges that are particular to Bolani, our company. And we just were not getting any results. And about a year passed by and still no implementation, but we're still paying monthly. And that's about the time that I met Vish at IDDBA. And this is a side note because I think every great company is defined by their values and also their core leadership. And when I met Vish, I saw a person who had a big ambitions, a lot of desire, and he was annoying. He just would not let me go. He was constantly on top of me. And I'll be honest with you, I loved it. I never told him at the time because he was really annoying me and I was trying to sell the Costco and Whole Foods at IDDBA. But inside, I was really, impressed by that because you don't really see that, especially in today. People who are really relentless at trying to achieve something. And I didn't just see a relentless that you might see in an investor or another CPG brand or something. I saw a relentless that he was really trying to understand my problems, make it his problems, and solve it. And from that moment, I thought, okay, let's see if this can work. And we started the conversations, but I wasn't fully ready to commit because you can imagine I had just been burned through Fishbowl, a year of time. I hired people just to do this inventory control. It's a lot of investment and I was not seeing any results. So I said, let's try this. And as me and Vish started to work together with Power Central, he right off the bat, showed me that he is a person that can help us to solve the problems that fit Bolani again, because I think that's what it really comes down to. And he started to come up with ideas and we started to roll. But really, like any program, Vish, and one of the things that made Power Central separate is the team that he's put together. And, when Alan came in and we started working, I didn't know what to expect. I'm going to get executive coaching, like we run this plan, how's it going to work? But really, Alan's approach was not only thoughtful, but he was also strong when he needed to be. He also, he gave us the tools that even in the moment we didn't understand, but a week of doing the exercises that he was asking us, like meeting weekly, going over the performance, we started to see the departments take ownership. And by taking ownership, they wanted to improve. And the only way to really improve was to implement the system. And not only implement the system, but get better at the system. And as we started to see that, we all at Bolani started to see the results, and we are excited. We've gotten to the final stages of the implementation, and now we're actually starting to schedule production through it, which has been an amazing. And then, I've talked to Vish about AI, and we've already started to do some really, really cool stuff that honestly, when I share with other people in this space, they're just amazed that, Power Central is not just an ERP system, but Power Central if you want to scale from 10 to 100 million, this is the system that you need, because this system will grow with you. And its willingness and customizability to really fit us. And their approach, I really believe, Vish brought up, Bolani does 7 road shows nonstop in 7 states in America, from the Northeast to the Pacific Northwest to San Diego. And it cost me a lot of money, because Costco, I feed a lot of people, and I do over 60 farmers markets. But it's really that hand to hand of constantly sampling to people that I will build generations of customers. And I really believe that about Power Central, the touch and the ability they have had to not only implement, but put the team, but honestly, and this is no fluff, make the company stronger, like tremendously, is really worth more than any monetary money I could give them, to be honest. So, yeah.
Absolutely, Bilal. Really appreciate it, especially just to see your team grow from where they were really struggling on a Friday to order things on a Monday to really take ownership like 1 or 2 weeks ahead of time and really see through that change. I think it's just been absolutely amazing just in the last couple of months.
Yes. And honestly, like I said, it's not just, I can tell you about the traceability we've gained. I can tell you about the, margins that we're starting to see. I mean, I just did costing through the system for the first time, and it's just amazing to see it all on the paper, which is great. But really, it's the mentorship. Alan, he might not know this, but the couple of weeks that I spent with him and the time that we've talked to him, he's really changed the way, not just me, but my operation manager, my QA, we all start thinking about the company, meeting every day, communicating more. And it's taken away a lot of headaches, because when we talk to each other, we go, oh, you have the film problem. Oh, this is why that's happening. Oh, let's fix this,
Anyhow, so this is just last month that I did EPA, and Bilal actually had our poster. That is our poster that he had in his booth. And pretty much I fired all the salespeople we had. And now we just have executive coaches that help through the implementation process that really have been on the floor. And Robbie will go through it in a little bit, but essentially what we were doing is we were just, really asking a couple of selective questions or qualifying questions, and then we just took them to Bolani to have them speak to Billal, and Billal will make the pitch, right? So that was really amazing, right? And Robbie will go into it a little bit in the next meeting.
So we do all the prospect meetings where Bolani is doing their roadshow.
Yeah,
just like have them meet.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just the amount of there's no amount of money we could spend on marketing to basically get that level of support from a customer. Like, when do you ever see an Oracle poster or a Fishbowl poster in a customer's booth, right? It just never happened. And that's very unique. And when prospects see that, they're like, oh my God, how good are you, right?
Yeah, because your system is legit and the way you're implementing it is legit, and it's actually improving the customer, not just I don't want to say scam, but not just stringing him on just to get his monthly fee and his processing fee, and then he's just number 57. You guys really do something that really works, and the company improves, and that's why I'm so impressed by it. And Vish didn't pay me that. That's the honest truth. It's the same way when I sample in a Costco, I can tell everyone this has 25 grams of protein, spinach, blah, blah, blah. But end of the day, when I give them that sample and they eat it and it tastes delicious, they go, oh, give me that. Whatever that is, it's 3 sauces and a bread. Give it to me.
Awesome. All right. Thanks a lot, Billal. Really appreciate it.
No problem, Vish.
Right. And then, and now, I want to transition over to Fred. So, Fred, take it away, Fred.
So our story is a little different. Vish had kind of a challenge with us. Jack Stutz, who started the company, and I go way back. My first real job was working for him at Oscar Mayer Foods in 1987. And about 10 years ago, he brought me in. They were doing everything on Excel spreadsheets for the factory, and they were using QuickBooks. And obviously, nothing talks to QuickBooks, so they had 2 systems going on. But the spreadsheets didn't talk to one another. So when they took something out of inventory to create a finished good, they had to remember to go back to the inventory spreadsheet when they used it on the assembly spreadsheet. So I custom wrote a Microsoft Dynamics ERP system for Jack. And when I say custom, it was exactly like the people wanted. So going to a new system, it had to be as good as that and made those people as happy. And Vish clearly accomplished that. We worked through differences and issues, but there's a lot more functionality in Vish's system than what Microsoft Access had. But we already had a system that everyone liked. It just was not able to handle the increased growth, and it didn't talk to a financial module. So selecting an ERP system to go to so that our manufacturing operations changes or receipts automatically if went into your finances was our time saver, is what we were looking for. So we went the traditional route. We looked at NetSuite, we looked at Microsoft Dynamics, and we looked at Sage. And we actually, what I've always forgotten to tell you, Vish, is, and this may be helpful for your company, I called Microsoft Dynamics and said, okay, here's my industry. They have partners. They have a list of companies like yourself that they'll recommend to people based on what kind of use you want to use for Microsoft Dynamics. So when we were a food packer, they gave me 3 type of ERP implementers that are partners with Microsoft Dynamics, like Vish's company is. And I interviewed those 3 and we selected one. And then we compared that one to Sage and NetSuite. So we even toured facilities that had implemented these and really got down to what we wanted. Well, we picked Microsoft Dynamics, and everybody's the same. They want to charge $225 an hour. And over a year later, we hadn't made step 1. They had changed the manager 4 times. Everybody was having issues and the people were keeping turnover. So we were paying people to relearn stuff over and over and over and didn't make any progress. It was very frustrating because it's an annual payment, and we basically met Vish in the 53rd week. So we ended up paying for the system for the second year also with our previous. But what did happen was, as our private equity firm, Cordatus Capital, has purchased Stutz Packing, we were looking for a partner. Pack and Fresh came across our radar. We went and toured Pack and Fresh, and my boss happened to ask Vish, hey, what ERP system do you use? And Vish went into a sales mode and showed him. And then, Kevin said, hey, talk to this guy. And so Vish and I talked for a long time, and we pulled the plug on the very expensive system. And one of the main drivers of pulling the plug was we knew it was a fixed cost. Vish quoted us a fixed cost for each module. And whether that took 1 hour or 101 hours, that was what we were going to pay. And we were then comfortable with the cost. I can't stand the not knowing, when they're leaving and when they're stopping and having to pay for their time when they're traveling from a hotel that was 30 miles away when they could have stayed at one that was 3 blocks away. Just that whole thing frustrated me. But once we started with Vish, we kind of fell into, we're going to operate our current system well past when we go live. So we did the work. We kept both systems going, both QuickBooks and Microsoft Access, and we started using Vish's system. So the fact that we were committed to doing both systems, we just started with receipt, and we received everything into inventory, and we changed our inventory so fast that long before we ever went to live, we had nothing but stuff that had already been received into Vish's system in our inventory. So most people, when they go live, they have to go out and do an inventory of what's not in the system and then go put it in the system. Well, we had all of our raw material inventory in the system when we went live. And once we felt comfortable getting everything in the system with his app doing that way, we started consuming the raw materials and making finished goods with assembly orders. And we worked out the bugs there. And everybody thought that was, a step up and a huge improvement with our inventory levels. When we were done at the end of the shift, you put the stuff back and all was good. Once we got the bugs worked out there, we worked on our shipping app, and then we did accounting, and we were ready to go. And when we turned it on, it went, like I said, nobody really knew the difference because we had for a couple of months been doing everything in both systems. We continued to do everything in both systems until the following February, which was when we were having our BRC audit, and we just wanted both systems to be able to do traceability tests when they quizzed us. And in case we had an issue, we had a backup system. So once we got our BRC audit completed, we then turned off the old systems, and we're just now using Vish's system. But I highly recommend you, Vish, to inquire with Microsoft about getting on their partner list and having them sell your company for you. And you might get some cold calls from people who call Microsoft.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Rick. And also, can you also go into, like, since you deployed, like, how have you, or like, especially your analysis on freight and what, you thought the margins were going to be, and what are the things that you're able to do now?
I can't speak to margins, but because I had developed the previous system and I knew what wasn't in it that we wanted, we asked Vish to capture those things. And so in the past, we had no idea whether our actual freight was higher or lower than our estimated freight on every truck. And so when we win a contract, we upload that data on the sales orders, and then we can compare the actual, and that's really good. We also have thousands and thousands of sales orders in trucks through the USDA, and in QuickBooks, we manually entered each one of those, and the time savings that we took the Excel spreadsheet that the USDA gives us, and Vish uploaded that into Microsoft Dynamics with a push of a button. It saved hours and hours and hours of accounting labor, and it's accurate compared to the keystroke error. No matter how good you are, you're going to have some. And one of our other things that we really liked compared to the partner before is Vish said, this is the type of gun, this is the type of tablet, this is, versus our previous places, you got to talk to your own internal IT guy and buy what you want. We're not recommending any of that. And that was just another task we didn't want to take on and research. So we're glad to be given standard recommendations, and they weren't, cost-wise any different than anybody else. So it worked out great.